Parshat Yitro, Bezrat Hashem Yitbarach, Matan Torah, Kabbalah Torah. I think we have a very, very interesting phenomenon. I don't know if it exists in any other Parshat Hashem, which is the most famous pasuk in Parshat Yitro isn't in Parshat Yitro. I'll say that again. The most famous pasuk in Parshat Yitro isn't in Parshat Yitro, because if you stop an average Jew in the street and say, "Hey, Parshat Yitro, Kabbalah Torah, what's the most famous pasuk?" What are they going to tell you? Nasa v'nishma. Where's Nasa v'nishma? It's not in Parshat Yitro. It's the end of Parshat Mishpatim, Parach Dal. So why do people associate Nasa v'nishma with the story of the Sarah Dibros and Kabbalah Torah? You want to know why? Famous machlokas between which two Rishonim? Ramban and Rashi. Good. Ramban and Rashi. There's the same machlokas, and they even use the same terminology. It's not like an Indian Rav Yosef and Abaye, Afan Antonina, Mike Kamash Antonina. It's mamish the same thing. The kusugya of ein mukdam u'mucha b'Torah. Rashi brings it up a few times in the Sefer here. This is one of the cases. It's also the whole story of Chekei Egel in the Mishkan. And each time Rashi says ein mukdam u'mucha b'Torah, the Ramban respectively differs and says no, yesh mukdam u'mucha b'Torah. And there's a question at the end of Mishpatim. We have a whole long description. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, come to Har Sinai. There's in the Brit. And there, as part of that description, we have the expression of Klal Yisrael Nasa v'nishma. And the question is whether or not that's part of Matan Torah. According to Rashi, if you take a look in Pasuk Aleph, Parak Chavdal, and that story there, the end of Mishpatim, Vel Moshe Amar Alaya El Hashem, Ata v'ron Adav Yeviu Shivim Zeknei Yisrael Yishlach Mitam Merachok. So Rashi says, Vel Moshe Amar, Parsha Zu Nemra Kodem Aseret Dibro B'Dalad V'Sivan Amar Lo Ale. I mean, this whole Parsha here, Parach Chavdalad, was given when? Before Aseret Dibro. What Parach Aseret Dibro? In our Parsha, Parach Chav. So somewhere in Parach Yutet, the whole description of the Shoshis Me'agbala, etc., before Aseret Dibro, we have the story at the end of Parsha Mishpatim. On the other hand, the Ramban said everything appears exactly in the order that we have it in the Torah. First we have Parach Yutet, which is the whole description of the Hagbala, the mountain. We'll see the description side in a second. Then we have Parach Chaf, which is Sarah Dimrod. Then we have Parshat Mishpatim, 3 prakim full of mitzvot. We'll talk about them next week with Zrat Hashem. Parach Chaf Aleph, Parach Chaf Bech, Parach Chaf Gimel. And then after all the Mishpatim, all the nitty gritty, then we get to Parach Chaf Daled and the story of Nasa v'nishma. So in essence, if I want to talk about the relationship between Parach Yutet on one hand and Parach Chaf Daled on the other hand, according to the Rashi, Parach Yutet and Parach Chaf Daled is the same story. It's 2 different descriptions of the exact same story. Whereas according to the Ramban, they're 2 totally separate things. Parach Yutet at the very beginning, a few things happen in the meantime, and the end, we get to Parach Chaf Daled. Let's look at the descriptions of the prakim, and then I think we could get into a little bit more biyun and understanding the machlokas between Rashi and the Ramban, and more importantly, the machlokas of Rashi and the Ramban, but the significance of the machlokas between Rashi and Ramban. One, in terms of understanding what actually happened in Har Sinai, the experience that Bnei Yisrael had in Har Sinai, and number 2, how that relates to our own connection to Torah and our connection with Klal, to our life of Torah and mitzvah, Bezrat Hashem Yitbarach. Okay, so let's look at our Parsha, Parach Yutet. So Parach Yutet beginning in Revi, famous pasuk, B'chol Yisrael Tzei Pnei Yisrael Mitzrayim B'yom Hazeh Ba'u Midbar Sinai. I mean, V'yisum Refidim B'yavo Midbar Sinai V'yachanu B'midbar V'yichan Sham Yisrael Neged Ahar. Famous Chazal B'nos V'yichan, why is it in the singular? Ki ish echad b'lev echad. Dafka what Baruch Hashem. We've had chizuk in the last couple of months. We have to continue to have chizuk in Abbas Yisrael and Aftos, which will Bezrat Hashem bring us to the Gula Shlema V'hera B'yameinu Amen. So Hashem says, Moshe alal, Moshe goes Elokim by Kalam and Ahar, and there are all these descriptions before Kabbalah Torah. Let's take a look at a couple of them. Take a look at Pasuk Tet Zayin. Vahi b'yom ha'shlishi b'yot haboker, Vahi kolot uvrakim v'anan kaved al ahar. What does that mean, kolot uvrakim? There's thunder, there are loud sounds, there's a dark mountain on the there's a dark cloud on the mountain, v'kol shofar chazak mod. Right? There's this blasting shofar. Vayicharad kol ha'am asher b'machaneh. The entire camp, what's their reaction? They're trembling. Pasuk Yud Chet. V'har Sinai Hashan Kulov B'nei Asher Yerad Alav Hashem. It's going. Hashem came down b'eish and fire. There's smoke. V'yal Shno Kashan Kivshan V'echarad Kol Ha'arma. All the mountains trembling. Another pasuk Yud Zayin. V'yitzvu b'tachtit ha'ar. Now on a pshat level, this pasuk is okay. Just tells us geographically where Bnei Yisrael are, right? That they're standing there at the footstep of the mountain. What did Chazal teach us? No, we're on Yom Chamishi. This is Chamishi. Maybe you didn't get there yet in Shnai Mikra. Who saw? Yeah, Yefeh. So there's a famous Gemara in Shabbos and Daf Pechet. V'yitzvu b'tachtit ha'ar amar Rav Dimi bar Chama bar Chasa milamed shekaf HaKadosh Baruch Hu lahem et har kigigit. V'amar lem imatem v'kavlim Torah mutav v'imlav sham tiyeh kvoratchem. What does it mean, Tachtit Ahar? Hashem held Har Sinai over the heads of Bnei Yisrael and said, Bnei Yisrael, you're either accepting my Torah or what? Or I'm letting go. Boom! That's the end. What kind of experience is being described here? Fear, trembling. Right? Here, I'll give you another example. Take a look. After the Sarah Dibrot, in Pasuk Tedvav, V'chol ha'am ro'im et hakolot, v'et halapidim, v'et kol ha'shofar, v'et ha'ar Hashem, v'yara ha'am yanu v'yamdu merachok. Everyone see it. I mean, the sounds are so loud that they see the sounds. They hear the kol shofar. They see the smoke on the mountain, and the nation is in fear. V'yara ha'am v'yamdu merachok. What does it mean they stood merachok? So literally it means that they stood at a distance. But it's more than just literal. That whole experience in Parshat Yitro is described as the experience of them taking steps backwards and moving away. A lot of chazals, every word that Hashem said, they want to die, they want back to life. Etc. Now, if I look at Parshat Dalet, I have an entirely different experience. I have a totally different story. Flip to the end of Parshat Mishpatim, where we were before Parshat Dalet. Here there's a whole story of a celebration, right? The story of a celebration, there's simcha, there's a brit between Am and the Am and Hashem, where it's a brit, a covenant coming close together, there's dveikus in Hashem. A few psukim we'll look at, pasuk hey, vayishlach and harim v'yisol v'yilu olot v'yizbechu zvachim shlamim l'Hashem parim. Right, they're bringing karbanos to come close to Hashem. Pasuk Zayin, vayikach sefer habrit, again the brit, vayikrat boznei ha'am, vayimru kol asher diber Hashem nase v'nishma. Right? The famous words of Nasa v'nishma, the showing of love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whatever Hashem says, sure, we'll do it, even if we don't fully understand. Afterwards, in Pasuk Yud, Vayiru et Elohei Yisrael, tachar adat masei levnas aveu ke'etzem shemayim l'tor. Opposed over there where they were afraid, they took steps back, they're trembling. Here they mamish have a revelation of Hashem. They see Hashem. But it's not stam that they see Hashem. Look at the next Pasuk. V'latzilei b'nei Yisrael lo shalach yado v'yechzu et Elohim v'yochlu v'yishtu. It's not much like a tish, right? It's like there's also Torah, there's also revelation of Hashem, and you're also eating and drinking and enjoying and l'chaim. A very, very, very different experience than what's described in Parshat Yitro. So Parshat Yitro is a story of distance, of fear. Parshat Dalet is a story of Hashem revealing Himself, of closeness with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, of simcha. And now the question is, okay, Rabbi, so what did Bnei Yisrael experience at Har Sinai? What happened there? What went down? And the machlokas between Rashi and Ramban leaves us with two totally different understandings of the experience that Bnei Yisrael had on Har Sinai. And from each one of these understandings, and from each one of these experiences, I think we walk away with a different model of our relationship to Torah mitzvos and our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So let's start with the joke. Again, it's a yeshivish joke. Don't have too high expectations. They say this time of year, you guys last hours from Bnei Brak, right? They say this time of year there's a joke that passed around Panovich Yeshiva that goes as follows. The invitation comes to Matan Torah. What time does it say in the invitation? 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. Matan Torah. What time did the Yakim show up? 7:30. The Yakim, gotta make sure that they're on time. They show up at 7:30. What time do most people show up?
8:05. 5 to 8.
Malam mitzvos. Yeah, 5 to 8. No. What time does davening start in your shul? Shabbos morning, what time does davening start?
9:50.
9:15. What time do most people show up?
Go to 10.
So it's called for 8 o'clock. Most Jews are walking around 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock. When do the Hasidim show up? 10 o'clock.
Next day.
Oh, so the joke says that the experience that the different groups of Jews had on Har Sinai set the tone for exactly how they served the Shem for the rest of their lives. The Yekim showed up at 7:30, so what part did they get there for? The kolot, the lapidim, the thunder, the lightning, the loud sounds, the trembling, the fear, the distance, and therefore their religious experience is one of most of the people show up casually, right? They got a little bit of the distance and the fear of the era. They were around for the karbanos and the partying and the lachaims and the brit and the warmth at the end. So they had a mixture of two. And the Hasidim? The Hasidim made it for the party at the end, for the kids. This joke, here's the longest on the joke, you ready? It's a joke from Punch. Is this joke according to the sheet of Rashi or the sheet of the Ramban? No, think it through. Is this joke according to the sheet of Rashi or the sheet of the Ramban? It's a sheet of the Ramban. That everything's in chronological order. That first I have the story in Yutet of the distance, of the fear, of the trembling, of the Yirat Shamayim. And only afterwards do we get to what we learn about in Parshat Dalet, the bridge with Hashem, with the closeness, with the eating and the drinking and the warmth, the kirva, the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And if so, there's a tremendous yesod. Is that if I ask myself, this connects a little bit to what Itai asked yesterday in Vad, right? About how much is the room for enjoyment and where should that room for enjoyment be? And there's a part of my relationship with Kadosh Baruch Hu that's one that's based on Ava, and one that's based on Simcha, and one that's based on closeness. Says the Ramban, what we learned at Har Sinai is, first, what do I need? First Yira, and then on top of Yira, I build the next layer, which is the level of Ava. And that's the only way that a person can get to real, true, genuine Avos Hashem. A person wants real Simcha in mitzvos. A person wants real Simcha in Torah. It wants real Simcha in religious observance. It has to be something which first comes Yira, and then Ava. Bnei Yisrael get to that level of the experience that they have in Parshat Dalet. Right? The closest to Kadosh Baruch Hu and their karbanos, only on the basis of Parak Yutet, Chav Aleph, Chav Bet, Chav Gimel. It was all the trembling and the Yira. Meaning, go back to Parak Yutet, we also have the Hagbala, not once, twice. Hashem says, Moshe Rabbeinu, tell them that they go around the mountain, they don't get to the mountain, they touch them out, they're going to die. Moshe tells them. Then again, Hashem tells them. Moshe says, wait, I already told them. Hashem says, no, you have to warn them again. They have to stay far away. There needs to be a Yira. A person has to look at a Kadosh Baruch Hu, look far away. But once a person solidifies that, and then on top of that, they have the Sera Dibros. They have the tens of mitzvot, and the 3 prakim of Mishpatim, Chav Aleph, Chav Ben, and Chav Gimel. Then we get to Chav Dalet. Meaning on the basis of the routine, the daily routine, day in and day out, of keeping the basic halachas, on a fundamental Yirat Shamayim, that's how we get to the true Simcha. If you remember in the Malach Malcha that we had a couple of months ago, so we learned about the Kevas Echat Haseh Baboker, the Kevas Hashem Haseh. That has to be the basis. Shabbos Mevarchim, right? What month are we Mevarch this month? Shabbos. Scary to think that in a regular year, we'd be 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away from Purim. We'll have to talk about Purim Katan in 3 weeks. But we'd be Mevarch Chodesh Adar. Everyone knows, right? Mishnachas Adar, Ma'arba B'Simcha. But again, the question is, what's the real Simcha? A person wants a real Simcha in their Oros Hashem. A person that goes through the 40 days of Elul Zman, Aseret Simei Tshuva, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Chorav Zman, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, they go in the routine, they push themselves in all the grind, the ups and downs, the Chorav Zman blues, they push themselves through and they work again and again and again. The avoda, the Yom Yomi, the daily avoda of going through. As the Shulchan Aruch starts off at the beginning. Anyone know how the Shulchan Aruch ends? The end of Orach Chaim, the Shulchan Aruch. The very, very last siman in Shulchan Aruch Chaim Tafresh Tzadi Zayin, Ein Omrim Tchina B'Yudal B'Tevav B'Adar Rishon. We don't say Tachar. Jews like it when we don't say Tachar, right? It's always a reason for simcha. I never understood that. Why is such a big deal? Anyways, it says Adar Rishon also in Yudal, also in Tevav Purim Katan, and Shushan Purim Katan. You don't say Tachar. And then the Shulchan Aruch says. וישום דעת בהפסי ותני מותרים, it's a question about hefsei tani, samina kesor rishona, ישום שחייב להרבות במשנה בשמחה בי"ד שבת ראשון. There are those that say that you have to have extra mishnah and simcha on Purim Katan, in Yud Adar Rishon. Says the Rama, ve'eino k'ken. But that's not the minhag. Mikol makom yarbeh k'tzat b'suda. K'dei latzet yedei hamachmirim. You have a little bit of a Purim Suda, a little bit b'simcha on Purim Katan. To be outside machmirim, v'tov leiv mishte tamid. V'tov leiv mishte tamid. That it's always good, right? For a person's heart to be b'mishte. So there's an amazing Shari Tshuva there in the Shulchan Aruch. It brings the Tashbetz in the name of Yechiel Paris. It's the father of the Rosh. Siyum Lashon Rama v'tov leiv mishte tamid shebechochma yasar chatima me'em pticha. Says the fact that the Rama ends the Shulchan Aruch Chaim with Tov Leiv Mishta Tamid is through genius. That the signature, the seal of Aruch Chaim is just like the beginning. Who remembers what the first thing that the Shulchan Aruch says? The Rama says at the beginning of Aruch Chaim? The very, very first thing the Rama says at the beginning of Aruch Chaim. The Shulchan Aruch starts off with, right? You gather, right? The person has to wake up like a lion, get up in the morning to go to Hashem. And the Ramah then says, at least you should have missed this man that seals with Balaam. And then he says, Shivisi, Hashem, Le'i Tamid. Klal Gadol B'Torah Ma'asat Tzadikim. Says, Uvichimi Parish, Shnei Tmidim Kisidran. It's like a Karman Tamid, right? Karman Tamid also says, there are two Tmidim. Who patach B'Reish HaKotav Shivisi Hashem Le'i Tamid. V'chatam Tov Le'i Mishnah Tamid. He opens up the Shulchan Aruch. Right? Shivisi Hashem Le'i Tamid. And he concludes, Le'i Mishnah Tamid. That's all he says. Now, it's just not a technical thing, but it's exactly the point that we're talking about here, according to the Ramah, according to the Ramban. How does a person get to the matzav that his leiv is mamish v'mishvah tamid with the Kadosh Baruch Hu? How does he get to the level of simcha, of that ava, that closest to Hashem? What does it have to start with? Shivisi Hashem l'negdi tamid. Shivisi Hashem l'negdi tamid is an issue of fear, of yirat shamayim. No matter what a person does, he always sees Hashem in front of him and he acts accordingly. That's the yirat shamayim. So a person starts off with Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Tamid, Yirat Shamayim. He goes through all of Aruch Chaim. He goes through the daily schedule, getting up for what he's supposed to get up, and Neglas, and get dressed the way he's supposed to, and then Brach Birchos, Shevechas Torah, Birchos Shachar, and Shachas, and business ethics, and Mincha, and Mar. And then he goes through the weekly schedule, all Hilchos Shabbos, and Chilek Gimel, Mishnah, Brura, and all the Yom Tov. He goes through it all. Then he gets to the end, the last thing is Purim. He gets to the Simcha. Michinichas Adam, Marim B'Simcha, but then it's a real Simcha. Then it's real Simcha. Because his relationship with the Av and Simcha and Torah and Mitzvos is based off of the routine. Ad Kan, the experience in Har Sinai and its significance to us according to the Ramban. What about according to Rashi? According to Rashi, it's a totally different story. Why? Because what do we say? That according to Rashi, it's not that Perek Yutet came before Perek Chavdalet. In order, chronologically, Ein Muktam B'Mucham Torah. Perek Yudalet and Perek Yutet and Perek Chavdalet happen simultaneously. They're intertwined. They're two different descriptions of the exact same experience. Which means that the footsteps of Har Sinai, what did Bnei Yisrael experience? They experienced a very complex experience that included within it both Yirat Shamayim and the fear, coupled with the Simcha and the closeness. And then the question is, how do we translate that to our position? This year we said we're Zochah, you guys were Zochah to a whole extra month of Chol Tzon in Yeshiva. It's amazing. A whole extra other. But in a regular year, on the same week that we read Parshat Mishpatim, we take out another Sefer Torah to read another Parsha, which is Shkol from Kitisa. If you want to open up the beginning of Shkalim, וידבר השם משה לאמור כי תישא ראש בני ישראל ופקודיהם ונתנו איש כופר נפשו להשם בפקוד אותם לא יהיה בהם נגב בפקוד אותם זה ייתנו כל עובר על הפקודים. 3 times in Sefer Shemot when Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu זה, Rashi makes the same comment that Hashem had to go ahead and show him something. Here it doesn't say that Kasha, it didn't say that he had a difficulty with it. The other places it explicitly says Zeh Maseh Menorah. The Moshe didn't understand exactly how he was supposed to make the whole menorah from one solid piece of gold. We saw in Parshat Bo, right? Zeh by Kiddush HaChodesh. HaChodesh says Zeh Lechem. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't understand exactly, so Hashem pointed to the sky and said Zeh. Also here Zeh Yitnu. Says Rashi, look at Rashi. Hereu kimin matbea shalesh umishkala machzit hashekel v'omer lekazeh yitnu. There's another medrash that says he took out from mitachah the kisei kavod. Hashem reached his hand underneath the throne, his throne, and he shows Moshe Rabbeinu a coin of fire of a machzit shekel. He says zeh yitnu. Give it like this is what they should. This is what they should give. The question is, what does that mean? Matbea shalesh. What's the significance of matbea shalesh? Why not? Why not a regular coin? Show them matbea. Chatzi shekel. It's matbea shalesh. So the current Lubavitcher Rebbe Zecher Tzadik Levracha once addressed this issue at a Fabregi in Parshat Shkalim, and he said that if you think about it, matbea and eish is an oxymoron. They're two totally opposite things. What's a matbea? What's matbea? A coin, right? What's the definition of a coin? What makes a coin a coin?
Something has value.
Something has value. This has value. It's not a
Something that
coin.
goes back. It's solid.
It's something. What's the difference between a piece of metal and a coin? That a piece of metal can be based on what its weight is. Based on a coin is something that's imprinted. It's something that's exact, and therefore it has something that was set, and it has a value based on the government, or whatever government or whoever issued the coin, imprinted on that piece of metal. That's something that's a coin. Matbea is also the notion of teva. What's teva? Nature. It's something that's tavua. It's something that's set. It's something that's routine. It's an exact. What about fire?
Why?
Ever see fire stand in place? Fire is the exact opposite. It's not something that's set. It's not something that's coined. It's not something that's imprinted. Fire is something that's dynamic. It's always in motion. It's always moving. It's always going up. It's always flaring around. Says Lubavitcher Rebbe, that's exactly the point. Matbea represents routine. It represents routine. At the kevas achat said baboker, the kevas sheitem is arbayim. The routine of doing things exactly as they need to be. On the other hand, fire represents hislavus. It represents passion. It represents tshuka. It represents longing. The fact that fire goes up represents shifas, aspirations. Always trying to break out of routine and go for something greater, go for something bigger, going for something that has more tzma. Says the Rebbe, when Hashem shows Moshe Rabbeinu a matbea shel zahav, remember, what are we supposed to do with machzit the shekel? Every single Jew, doesn't matter who he is, wealthy, poor, every Jew every year has to give him a matbea shel zahav. Says the Rebbe, what's HaKadosh Baruch Hu teaching Moshe Rabbeinu, and through Moshe Rabbeinu teaching each one of us? He's teaching us the recipe for avodas Hashem. There has to be matbea together with eish. Every single year, no matter who he is. Mitachal kisei kavod, you want to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you want to worship HaKadosh Baruch Hu the way that you need to have a combination. If you're just matbea, then you're just parakut. If you're just eish, then you're just parakut. The Rebbe didn't talk about Yitene Chavdal, but just connecting to what we're talking about a moment ago. Matbea shel eish means that you have to be committed. You have to have kvios, you have to have routine, you have to stick to what you need to stick to every single mitzvah to say, to every single mitzvah lo to say. You have to have the kevas achadas baboker, or the kevas yitenes in arbayim. You need that matbea, but you also need to have the eish. You need to have passion in your avodas Hashem. You have to have the slavus, you have to have the excitement, you have to have the love. How do those two things coincide? Is it possible to coincide? Yes. Is it difficult? Yes. Moshe Rabbeinu had a hard time understanding. Hashem had to show him. But it's possible. That's the experience, according to Rashi, Hasinai. That Yud and Chavdal went 2 different times. They had both of those intertwined together. Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. The sign of the bracha. That every single person, according to their own way of servicing the Kadosh Baruch Hu, some people fits for them better the model of Rashi, what's Yutet, and then Chavdalim. Some people fits for them better the model of the Ramban, the model of the model of the Ramban, that it's Yotet and then it's Chavdalim. Some people fits better from the model of Rashi, where the two intertwined together. For some people, they have what to learn from both of the different models. But whichever way it is, we should make sure, as we're approaching Kabbalah Satorah, the Shabbos, reading the story of the Sarah Divros, thinking about it, as we spoke about last week, the importance of meditating of its bonanut, and really thinking about how to make sure that in our relationship with Torah and mitzvahs and our relationship with Kadosh Baruch and Hashem, we also have the aspect of Kevas HaChates HaBoker, we also have the Eish, the excitement, the Islamos. By putting those together, B'ezrat Hashem will be zochet to also have a life committed to Torah mitzvahs, and also a life that will fill with simcha and ava and kivra to Kadosh Baruch Hu, B'ezrat Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.